What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports, and that's probably the first game all season long that we didn't really have to stress, that we can just basically enjoy it. I would say for 95% of it, maybe even 100% of this game, because that was just a complete dominant effort on all sides of the field for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's what realistically you should be doing to this poorly ran Giants team, this poorly constructed Giants team. They're not good whatsoever. Yeah, they got some bright spots on the defense. They got Malik Neighbors, who did just come back from concussion protocol and was basically ineffective the entire game. Eagles really shut down everything on the defensive side of the ball. Getting 7 sacks on Daniel Jones, making his day just a complete living nightmare. And Saquon Barkley, in his return to Metlife Stadium, the team that refused to pay him. You have the Giants owner saying he will. He's got, all the stuff about him signing with the Eagles. You saw that stuff on Hard Knocks and everything there. Saquon, this was probably the most obvious result that you were going to get coming into this game. It was kind of too obvious. He was going to feast. He was going to have his revenge game. You hear all the Giants fans booing Saquon at the start of the game every time he touches the ball. It's just, basically, it was a dominant performance all through and through. And this is really a game that deserves a lot of love for the Eagles in the way that they played. But still, granted, at the same time, they still played a New York Giants team who is not good whatsoever, so you still have to take a lot of things with a grain of salt. I don't think this Eagles defensive front whatsoever is 7 sacks a game worthy. That's definitely not the case whatsoever. There's still a lot of doubt, in my honest opinion, with the passing game. I don't think Jalen Hurts played that good, even though he didn't pass the ball that many times. I believe he was only 10 of 14 in the completion attempts and everything there. But still, Jalen Hurts, there was some frustrating moments on his side. It's just the fact that, when he's taken 5 sacks, when he's taking too long to get rid of the ball, there definitely was a missing presence with Jordan Mailata not playing in this game and Fred Johnson having to replace that on the left side of the offensive line. So there definitely was a presence miss there, but I still think, Jalen Hurts needs to find a way to not get sacked 5 times. It just was one of those situations. Well, not 5 times. He got sacked 4 times. But still, getting sacked 4 times is a major deal, in my honest opinion. So I don't think Jalen Hurts, even though he had the beautiful dime to A.J. Brown on that 4th down play, which was beautiful. It was a perfectly placed ball. A.J. Brown does what A.J. Brown does, and there you go. Jalen Hurts also had some nice runs, especially when you're getting into the red zone, when you're basically trying to put the game away. He gets there, he gets the 1st down. He also avoided a sack late in the game as well to generate a 1st down play. So there were some good moments from Jalen on the running side of the ball, but I still have, some doubts on the passing side because there were certain situations where he doesn't see wide open guys, and he's, I believe it was a 3rd down play to Jahan Dotson when I believe it was Devontae Smith wide open, and then you also have down in the red zone where you're this was before Jalen Hurts ran on that 4th and short to convert the 1st down to make it 1st and goal. You had Saquon Barkley completely wide open on the left side of the field, uncontested, and Jalen Hurts doesn't see him whatsoever, and I believe that was the exact play before he ran it for the 1st down, if I'm not mistaken. So there's just a lot of frustrating things there with Jalen. And right now, offensively, I still think even though you scored 28 points, I'm not going to complain about that whatsoever because, Saquon feasted. Even Kenny Gainwell had a very solid day at the office. But I think just from the Jalen Hurts perspective, he specifically needs to be way better, in my honest opinion, the way that he reads the field and the way that, he's just missing some wide open guys. Like I said, that one play to Devontae Smith was wide open. I believe he threw the Jahan Dotson to try to convert on the 3rd down. The Eagles definitely were not the best on 3rd down conversions. I believe on their first 7 attempts, they went 0 for 7 in that case, but then they went like 2 for 2 on 4th down. So yeah, this offense is definitely normal at the end of the day. But defensively, 7 sacks, very good day at the office there. Josh Sweat gets into the mix. N'Kobe Dean gets into the mix. Bryce Huff actually gets a fucking sack. Hallelujah. He exists. I had no idea that he was even capable of getting a sack. My goodness. So that was crazy at the end of the day. Jalen Carter records a couple of sacks. In this game, they were basically just making Daniel Jones's day a living nightmare, and that's the bottom line there. Eventually when you get into the fourth quarter, because the game is so blown wide open, both teams bring out their backups on offense, so you get a little bit of Kenny Pickett action, and it kind of went how you expected because it's Kenny Pickett, for Christ's sakes. But that was just, kind of okay, this game's over. You really don't have to pay attention to this fourth quarter at all. At all. And there definitely was some things on the defense where you could have had an interception in this game. Obviously, I just saw Joe Eagle just bring this up right there in the comment in the live chat that Quinyon Mitchell was this close to getting another interception. I believe it was I'm not sure if this was one of the free play. No, the free play situation was when the Eagles, I believe, took a flag. So this is when Daniel Jones is deciding to throw it downfield, I believe, on third down. So basically an arm punt at the end of the day there. Quinyon Mitchell just getting this close to, but he's going to get the interception one time. He's going to get an interception one day. He's getting closer and closer every single day. Last week, he probably should have had an interception if it wasn't for fucking CJ Gardner-Johnson. So, and he's basically getting himself into positions every single week to make an interception. It's just sadly he's not getting the luck on that side, but eventually he'll find a way to do it. So hopefully there'll be one week where he does get an interception. Maybe it's next week in Cincinnati. Maybe that is the case. I have no idea, but it could be. But overall, besides certain things that I still do have problems with this game, mainly on the Jalen Hurts side of every aspect there, because I do believe this passing game should be way better than what it is showcasing over this season in general, because there's way too much talent on this offensive side for the passing game to be this weak. Besides, a couple of great times to A.J. Brown and him feasting there, Devontae Smith needs to be involved more. They were barely targeting Devontae Smith the entire game. And Jalen Hurts just reading the field and just looking for guys that are wide open that he should be passing to. Like I said, Devontae Smith on that one play. Saquon Barkley in the red zone. He should have found him open. He was wide open, and Jalen Hurts just did not throw it to him. I don't know if he didn't see him. I don't know if he looked in another direction or anything like that, but needs to be better. Needs to be better from that perspective. So I need Jalen to be way better. I need him to be way better because I do believe there's still something good in Jalen Hurts. I don't think you're ever going to get the MVP form from Jalen Hurts anymore. I think that is just a complete anomaly. I think that's just a complete outlier of Jalen Hurts' career. I think at this point of the end of the day, he's more closer to a Kirk Cousins type of quarterback, at this point of his career with the way that he has been playing more consistently than not. But there is one good thing I would say positively from Jalen Hurts' perspective. He hasn't turned the ball over in the past couple of weeks, so maybe there is some progress there into finding some consistency, but this passing game still needs to be more effective, in my personal opinion. But when you're dominating on the ground as much as you are with Saquon Barkley, I guess you can let that slide for another week because Saquon Barkley was just flat out fantastic. Flat out fantastic. He fed, he dominated, and that's basically the bottom line there. He had what? He had 17 carries for 176 yards. He averaged 10 yards per carry, basically. He had the one touchdown. I feel like he could have had a little bit more, but then you got a couple of tush-push touchdowns there. So I kind of wish he had a little bit more there just to, rub more salt into the wound of the Giants organization. But, he had a lot of long drives, even a couple of drives where he probably could have gone all the way if it wasn't for someone just catching up to him at the very last second. So he was just that good. He was flat out fun to watch, and he continues to be fun to watch when he manages to consistently get fed the ball. And that's one of the ways that this offense finds ways to succeed. You got to keep feeding Saquon because he's going to find those open spots. He's going to break loose. He's going to break free. He's going to give you those long runs when he gets hot and when he gets on a roll. That's, sometimes when we constantly look at some previous weeks when they completely go avoidance of giving Saquon the ball and they're just throwing the ball with Jalen way too much. Just feed Saquon. Feed Saquon, and you'll probably get performances like this more times than not. Yeah, sometimes if you feed Saquon, there's going to be some games where he doesn't perform as well. That's just the general, sense of a week-by-week basis in the NFL. You're not always going to be dominant. You're not always going to be on par. You're not always going to have fantastic games. But Saquon is a definitely a special talent in the running back position. And if you keep feeding him the ball more times than not, you will reap the benefits of it. And you, especially today, reap the benefits of it because that's how dominant he was. That's how dominant he was in today's game. It was very fun. It was very fun from that perspective. Who doesn't love Saquon Barkley just torching the Giants, the organization that he was with basically his entire career before he decided to leave them because they didn't want to pay him the money. Ownership just didn't want to pay him the money. Just fun stuff there from Saquon Barkley. It's fun. Then you see all the Eagles fans there. You see some of the Giants fans. Look, every time he touched the ball, they kept booing him and everything. You saw some Giants fans having stuff taped to the back of Saquon Barkley jerseys like traitor and everything like that, or just stupid names all around and all that stuff from Giants fans. They were trying to get under his skin. Saquon Barkley, even though he said a couple of days ago he doesn't expect boos, he probably knew that was going to happen because, Giants fans were going to boo him. He left the Giants, a team that he was with basically his entire career. He went to a division rival. Of course there's going to be booing. Of course they're going to hate you because, if you went somewhere else that wasn't in the division, that wasn't your division rival, they probably would have thought the other way. But no, that's not going to happen when you go to a division rival, especially the Eagles. And that's probably their most hated rival, the Giants. So, definitely, fans were trying to get under the skin, but Saquon Barkley just returned the favor and had a fantastic day at the office. If I do say so myself, very fun to watch. Very fun overall. If you look at Daniel Jones's numbers, dude just had a miserable time today. 14 of 21, only 99 yards of passing today. Got sacked 7 times. Drew Lock had to come into the game just because it was getting that miserable and the game was getting that separated that badly. Giants offense completely shut down by the Eagles defense, and that's what the Eagles defense should do overall. If you just go to the Eagles defensive from a perspective, so now this is 2 weeks in a row for the Eagles defense that they haven't allowed a touchdown. Yeah, they allowed a touchdown last week against Cleveland, but that was on special teams, so I guess that doesn't count as defense. That was on, a blocked field goal, and they returned it for a touchdown. Cleveland did. But defensively speaking, they didn't allow a touchdown last week to the Cleveland Browns, and they probably should have because they're just that bad. And they didn't allow a touchdown today against the New York Giants, so that's 2 weeks in a row of not allowing a touchdown. I don't know what that says about this defense. That probably says more about the competition that you are playing, that you are going to be successful more times than not when you're going up against bad teams. And eventually, when you play better competition, it's probably going to even out at the end of the day. You're not going to have days like this when you're sacking the quarterback 7 times. That's just not what I see this defense as. It is nice seeing Jalen Carter get involved, Nakobe Dean, Josh Sweat getting a couple of sacks there. That's always fun to see. Bryce Huff actually fucking did something. There was a lot of good stuff on the defensive side basically the entire game. But Darius Slay was good in coverage a couple of times, forced a couple of misses there on Neighbors. So there was good stuff really all around. Also, like I said earlier, the missed Quinyon Mitchell interception that could have, been an interception, but he's eventually going to get one week. But yeah, overall good stuff there defensively, but right now, obviously, I don't think this is what the defense is going to be once they face tougher competition. And we don't know eventually when that tougher competition is going to be because they really do have a favorable schedule going down basically the rest of the way because they play Cincinnati next week, and Cincinnati's really not that good of a team, regardless if they have Joe Burrow or not. That team has just completely struggled because their defense is just that bad. They also just can't score. So we'll see what happens in that course next week. Even though they are beating Cleveland 21-14, Cincinnati has really struggled for majority of this season. So we'll see what happens when the Eagles play them next week. But if you even look at the rest of their schedule too, and even brought it up on the broadcast at the end of the game in terms of like traveling and all that stuff for the Eagles, especially as you get to the backstretch of the schedule. So they play Cincinnati next week at a 1 o'clock game. That was originally a 4:25, but then it got flexed back to 1 o'clock because, obviously. Then they have a 8:20 game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Sunday Night Football on the 3rd. Then they play in Dallas on the 10th at a 4:25. Then they have a Thursday night game against the Commanders. Then they play a Sunday night game once again in Los Angeles against the Rams. And then basically look at this backstretch of the schedule right here. They play in Baltimore. They're home against Carolina. They're home against Pittsburgh. They're on the road in Washington. Home against Dallas. Home against the Giants. So if you look at the final, what is this, 6 games? They play 4 of those games at home. And really 2 of those games you don't really need to get on a plane. You could just travel by train. You travel on the train to Baltimore. You travel on the train to Washington. You really don't have to do much there, travel-wise. And even for a couple of games here, the furthest game that they have to travel for is the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, they probably have to. They most likely have to fly to Cincinnati. They'll have to fly to Dallas, and then they fly to Los Angeles. And basically, since then, that's the only other times they have to travel to another city on a plane. So they're not going to be traveling that egregiously. So maybe maybe they factor that in with going to Brazil, but there is a sense at the backstretch of the schedule where they don't travel that much. But they do play some tough teams, don't get me wrong. It really doesn't start until you play the Washington Commanders because Cincinnati's not that good. Jacksonville is not good at all. Dallas is not that good. Washington, very young up-and-coming team. Jaden Daniels is a beast, so that'll be a tough game for the Eagles. Rams, they're not good. Baltimore, that'll be probably the first true test for this Eagles team. I would say Commanders are probably the first true test for this team as well. So Washington and Baltimore, those are tough games, but then they play Carolina at home. Carolina sucks. Pittsburgh, they got a really good defense, but offensively, they are an eyesore, so you never know. Pittsburgh will always be a tough game because they'll find a way to make the game very boring as hell. The Washington Commanders, again, that'll be a tough game, and then you got Dallas and New York to end the season. So it definitely is a favorable schedule at the end of the day. So we'll see where that takes them. I have no idea how it's going to take them, but you never know. You never know at the end of the day. So let's see. And even Saquon mentioned about some of the Giants fans that he saw burning his jersey. So, my God, it's just unreal. He dominated the entire game. Saquon Barkley even says, to be honest, he's happy the game is over. He later conceded that he talked a little more shit today. Yeah, Saquon, he's like that one Michael Jordan meme where he says, I took that personally. That's basically what Saquon did today. Everything for him today was personal. Everything. He was just that good. And it was a very fun watch for the entire thing. Just look at some of the defensive plays here for the Giants. Well, for the Eagles specifically. Force a punt, 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 punt. Well, they actually got the field goal there, but there was a lot of 3 and outs on the Giants' perspective. Punt, 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 punt. Just basically punts every single drive for the Giants except for that end of the half field goal that they got. That was basically the only thing of consistency that the Giants had on the offensive side of the ball. So, and just looking at some other stuff here, team-wise, third down, the Eagles only went 1 for 13, so I guess if you want to look at something that was very negative on that, yeah, they only had 1 first down converting on third, but the Eagles were also 3 for 3 on fourth, so I guess, yeah, nothing normal with this offense whatsoever. Nothing normal at all. Eagles definitely were a little bit undisciplined today, especially early in the game, first fucking play. Obviously, on the kickoff, there was a penalty for, I believe it was encroachment or something like that. So, undisciplinedness still continues. But overall, still, I believe this is a game that deserves some love. It definitely does because they played morally a really good game. Then I would say they played a bad game. So, even though there's still things that I don't like specifically from this game, more on the side of Jalen Hurts in the passing game is what I don't like. Because I do believe that still really much needs to improve. But overall, this was a game that deserves a lot of praise, in my personal opinion. I don't know where this is going to carry as the weeks go along, especially when you do eventually play better competition. But this week, you could be happy. Eagles fans could be happy for once after a game because it was a game where they didn't have to stress, where they didn't have to pull their hair out, where they didn't have to watch a team that looked like pure garbage find a way to just ugly get a win at the end of the day or just get completely destroyed on all facets. This was one time where they completely dominated the entire game. For once, it felt like. Still didn't score in the first quarter though. That's still a common theme. Still cannot score in the first quarter. Even in a game where you completely dominate, still can't score in the first quarter. Offensively, for some reason, they just can't get things going in the first quarter. I have no idea why. I have no idea why. That is a pattern that I just will not understand. And that probably goes back to coaching, not having the team prepared. So there's also another thing to look at frustratingly, I guess you can say, at the end of the day. But still, overall, this was a pretty much enjoyable game from mostly all facets, I would say, mainly on the Saquon Barkley side and the defensive side of the ball, my personal opinion, personally at least. So, not sure if there's anything on the Twitterverse in terms of press conferences here. We do have, Saquon was definitely going to get interviewed a lot here, especially in his return to Metlife. But I do want to see if there was anything that stood out from Nick Sirianni. I'm not sure if he talked yet, but a lot of stuff right now is is from Saquon, which is to be expected at the end of the day. So we might as well get to the Anytime Hotline. We do have a call here from Sean, so let's see what he has to say about this Eagles dominating win in the Meadowlands.
So what's it been, about 10 years since you've had an Eagles game that you could actually sit back and enjoy and feel relaxed? It sure seems like that long of a time. You know, I keep things in perspective here. The Giants are a wretched football team. You did what you had to do. I was honestly surprised as many people were picking the Giants in this game. I mean, they've got Malik Neighbors and not much else on offense. But good to see, again, the Eagles, some of the young players on defense stepping up and being counted. And, of course, Saquon, showing up and, bitch-slapping the Giants. That was nice to see. What's not nice to see, once again, the struggle scoring points in the first quarter. Gee, you think that's related to Nick Sirianni scripting plays? I kind of think so. Also, excuse me, Fred Johnson struggling mightily. I mean, 4 sacks, 5 sacks in the first half, whatever it was, is unacceptable. But you take the win, and you have to take advantage of this part of the schedule. We never beat Cincinnati, so that's going to be a struggle in and of itself. But it's a game the Eagles got to have. You've got to beat the lesser teams that you're superior to. The Bengals are one of them.
I agree. I definitely agree. And that's what we got to see, what this team can carry on throughout the weeks, because the Bengals defense is not good whatsoever either. So I'm not saying that this defense, should this defense feast against Joe Burrow? I'm not entirely sure at the end of the day. But offensively, I need to see Jalen Hurts have a good game next week. I really do. I need to see this passing attack go after a Bengals defense that is not that good. So I need them to score, basically, I wouldn't say score 28 points, but I would like to see them put up a passing attack effort that is, equivalent to what Saquon did today. Obviously keep feeding Saquon the ball against the Bengals, but I would like to see Jalen Hurts have a very good performance next week as well, because I really do need Jalen Hurts to have a standout performance passing game-wise, because still, like I said, I don't think this passing attack is good enough, because they have way too much talent on this passing attack for it to struggle this badly. And I think Jalen Hurts is the main reason why this passing attack is struggling, because Jalen Hurts just doesn't look right, in my personal opinion. Like I said, I think he just holds onto the ball way too much. He doesn't see guys that are wide open. That's still an ongoing issue. And he just looks like sometimes he's trying way too hard to play hero ball. So I need to see Jalen Hurts have a very good game next week. I really do, because I'm starting to get very much more frustrated with Jalen as the weeks go along. I really am, because I expect better from Jalen, especially with the money that he's making. So, and my expectations should be high for Jalen, even though I think at the end of the day, obviously his MVP season is the complete outlier of his career, and he's more closer to a Kirk Cousins type quarterback than not. But even Kirk Cousins can have very good games and very good, situations where he is the reason why his team won a game. I really don't think the Eagles have won a game this year because of Jalen Hurts. in my personal opinion. They've won it probably because of AJ Brown, because of because of Saquon Barkley, because of the defense maybe. I really haven't seen a game this year where they were the difference, and the difference was Jalen Hurts on a positive perspective. There have been reasons why they lost because of a Jalen Hurts mistake or something like that, but I would like to see it be in the other direction. Reason why you win is because Jalen Hurts played fantastic. That's what I need to see. Maybe like a 250 plus passing yard game where he's making all these completions. He's hitting dimes to AJ Brown, finding Devontae Smith wide, open in stride or something like that, using his legs, just completely dominating on all facets of the field. I need to see that from Jalen Hurts because we really haven't seen that in a while. So that's what I need to see going in the next week's game against another bad opponent where you should be able to find a way to beat because you gotta. You got to at the end of the day. So now you're 4-2 on the year, which is always good at the end of the day. But gotta keep it rolling because when you play the Bengals next week, the Bengals, I believe they just beat Cincinnati. They just beat Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're right at 500 or they're below 500, if I'm not mistaken. So right now they're 3-4. So they're 3-4 in the season. They're not that good. They haven't won a game at home yet, so they really struggle in their own stadium, so you got to find a way to take advantage of that, in my personal opinion. Just gotta find a way. And before we close it out, I just want to see if there's anything here on something from Nick Sirianni. Really haven't seen anything yet on that perspective, so I'm not really going to look at anything right there. But like I said, this is a game that does deserve praise because it is their best played game all season long. But it is against the New York Giants, and the New York Giants are very bad. So this is a game that you should have against this caliber of team. Now we got to see how they carry it into next week against the Bengals. Got to see. So that'll do it for today, everybody. I appreciate y'all tuning in as always. So don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Do not pass it up. Appreciate you all.